Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie and we are at the Texas wetlands at the Houston Zoo with our whooping cranes. In a few moments we're going to start our Facebook Live as soon as we get a lot of people hopping on. Hello everyone and welcome to the Houston Zoo. My name is Stephanie and joining me is our two beautiful whooping cranes. Their names are Angel and Haydn. And right now I did give them a nice little pile of leaves and they're gonna go ahead and forage. And what are they gonna forage for? Well, we have some mealworms. We have some smelt or some fish, nice and tasty. We have some yummy peanuts. Elephants aren't the only ones who eat peanuts or have said to eat peanuts. And we have some yummy crickets for them as well. So these are some favorite food items for them. And we're gonna toss it into their pile. And they're gonna go ahead and forage like they do in the wild. In the wild, they have to search and they have to work for their food. So just like in the wild, we're gonna make them work for their food, which is called enrichment. So sometimes they are going to look at the camera. This is something that's new to them, but they're getting really used to cameras. They're getting used to people being in here, so they're familiarizing themselves. And as you can see, Haydn gets a little bit more confident. He's a little bit more food motivated, so he will do anything for food. He will come up for food even though he's being filmed. So he's not really camera shy when it comes to food. And then Angel is a little bit more camera shy. She gets a little bit more confidence with Haydn being comfortable being up here. So maybe in a little bit she will join Haydn in his foraging. But you can see as they forage, they use their beak, they push the leaves out, and then they try to look for the food inside. Because the worms and the crickets, they're live. So those worms and crickets are gonna move around and jump around and try to hide even more in the leaves. So they might be a little bit harder to find. So Haydn sometimes gets a little bit more into it and he will just throw those leaves away. So when keeper staff are raking in here, he sometimes will find all of our piles and do just what he's doing right now, is just shoving the leaves out and away. So I'm gonna throw some more mealworms. When you come to the Houston Zoo, you can recognize Haydn because of a band on his leg. So you don't see kind of like a bracelet around his leg, but Angel does have that metal band around her left leg. So that's how you can tell them apart. And another way you can tell them apart is that Angel is just a little bit smaller than Haydn. So she does weigh just a little bit under Haydn. Haydn's about 13 pounds, Angel's about 12. So Haydn is just a little bit bigger, and then also Haydn has the more confidence of the two teams. And one cool thing they like doing is they do like taking it to the water. They like giving their food a little bit of a nice soak. So they like soaking their food. He just took a piece of fish to soak the food. So they really, really like getting that food nice and soaked. And we can throw some bugs in their water so you can see the foraging in the water. You can see Haydn got really, really excited when I threw those bugs in the water. He does a little bit of a dance. Sometimes he doesn't really share with Angel. You might see that at your home too. You don't really share with your siblings. You don't really share with your family, especially when it comes to your very most favorite treats. You don't sometimes like sharing them. And Heiden and Angel are pretty much the same. But around breeding season, Haydn loves to share with Angel. And the way he'll share is he'll throw the peanut up and he'll do a dance and he'll throw a bunch of sticks up. And he likes doing those dancing acrobatic moments for Angel to impress her. And this is how you will see them in the wild. And you want to know where you can find them in the wild? Well, you can actually find them here in Houston, in the Houston area. You can go to Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, which is an hour and 30 minutes away from the zoo. So it's not too close, but it's actually not too far. It's about a day trip. So if you go really, really early, you can actually go into the refuge, go all the way to the back, and there's this nice tall tower. So once you climb that tall tower and look down, you actually probably will see some whooping cranes from down below. They're not super close because birds in general, there he goes. Birds in general are a little bit more fight or flight, and a lot of them are more flight. So they don't really go close to humans like Angel and Heiden do. But Angel and Heiden have gotten accustomed to coming really, really close because we do offer these enrichment items. We offer peanuts. And the reason why we have them come close sometimes is we get to check every single part of their body every single day to make sure they are healthy and they're going strong. There's nothing wrong with them. Because if there was something wrong, if we saw a wing not looking right or a foot not looking right or a toe not looking right, we would go ahead and report it right away to our excellent veterinary care staff, and they will come right away and check on the birds to make sure they are good. So we always check them. So one of the ways, I did mention that you can find the whooping cranes at Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. Now the best time to go and see them is this weekend coming up. So the weekend of the 26th, 27th, also the 25th. If you look online, they are selling tickets for the Whooping Crane Festival. It's at Aransas Wildlife Refuge. And it's really fun to attend. They have, if you look online on their website, they have boat tours, they have wine tours. Depending on the age, there's something for everyone. And it's a great time to see the whooping cranes because the whooping cranes actually only migrate here during the winter, during our winter time. So they will head back in the summer back to Canada. So this is a perfect time to see them, and all the festivities will be amazing to attend to. And it's one of the biggest festivals, especially bird related, and you can learn a lot, especially from professional birders. You can learn a little bit more about photography. There's a bunch of special speakers, so you can learn all about these beautiful whooping cranes and what it took to raise their numbers. So these whooping cranes, like I said, you can find them in the wild. In the past, in about 1930s, there was only about 20 whooping cranes left in the wild. So they went from about 10,000 whooping cranes to only about, let's say, 20 whooping cranes. So there wasn't many in the wild in the 1930s. And that's due to multiple factors. That was due to the water not being the best quality. That was due to pesticides. That was due to overhunting. That was due to many different factors. And so today their numbers are actually rising. So today you can actually find about 800 whooping cranes, which is still not that great. 800 is not a huge number compared to how they used to be, about 10,000. And so we're trying to get their numbers up, trying to reintroduce them, especially the International Crane Foundation is doing a great job reintroducing cranes into the wild. But one way you can actually help from your home or from the Houston Zoo is you can actually come to the Houston Zoo. By coming to the Houston Zoo, you can always help save animals in the wild, because with every ticket purchased goes to conservation initiatives. But if you can't come to the Houston Zoo for any reason, one thing that you can do is actually just recycle and make sure our water stays clean. So any straws that you might encounter, like when you go to a fast food place, you can opt out of the straw, or you can get a reusable straw if you really, really like straws. That's one thing you can do. You could get, the zoo is actually converting into our water bottle system. We used to have just water, which was cardboard based, and then now we are going to aluminum water. And then you can also just get a reusable water instead of getting plastic water bottles, because a lot of that plastic does end up in the environment. So, and these birds are foraging. So you can imagine if the bird is foraging just like he is right now in a pile, and he encounters a straw or he encounters a plastic water bottle, birds get very, very curious. So they might even eat it. So that's harming our animals in the wild, and we don't want to harm them. We want to save them. So that's two things you can do. You can come to the Houston Zoo, or you can recycle and use reusable items such as reusable straws or reusable water bottles. And so one cool thing that the Houston Zoo is doing is we are having our Centennial event this year. So we have made it all this way, 100 years, to the Centennial celebration. And it's so amazing that the zoo gets to celebrate with all of you. And my cool story for that Centennial celebration is going to be that when I came to Houston, I'm not from Houston. I'm actually from El Paso, Texas. And Houston Zoo was actually one of my dream zoos to work at. When I was little, I had a scrapbook that said Houston Zoo and San Diego Zoo. And I was ecstatic when I got the call to start my new chapter in life, which was the Houston Zoo. And when I got here, I was so head-ho on working hard and trying to stay here because I was hired as a temporary zookeeper. So I really, really wanted to stay here. So I worked hard, and I finally got to be a permanent keeper here at the Houston Zoo. And then what happened was I was cleaning an enclosure, and I wasn't expecting it, but this man came up and he asked me if he could clean a certain area that didn't belong to my area. And 2 years later, we are now engaged. So we have an engagement story for this Centennial, and he does work here as well. So we fell in love at the Houston Zoo. So if you guys have your Centennial stories just like mine or anything else, feel free to submit them on our website. You can submit it at thehoustonzoo.org and submit your Centennial story, because we would really, really love to hear everyone's story so we can connect the zoo to everybody, because everybody has a story here. Everybody came to the zoo when they were younger. Everybody came to the zoo when they were older. People came from across the world to the Houston Zoo. Was this your first American zoo you attended? We want to hear every single story, and we can put those stories out and share this amazing 100 years with the whole world. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some more crickets. They really, really love these crickets. They love bugs, they love fish. And Haydn is getting Angel is getting a little bit more confident now. She just needs a little bit of a push. And so it just like if your mom tells you to do something but you're afraid at one point because you don't want to do it, or people around you are scaring you, but once you see her do it, then you're like, okay, that's not so bad, that's not so scary. So Angel has super confidence in Haydn that he won't do anything that will hurt her. So she trusts his judgment, and she eventually will build confidence to come a little bit closer.
Can you remind viewers what we were feeding them, Stephanie?
Yeah, so I was feeding them some smelt, which is a type of fish. I was feeding them some mealworms, which are live, some crickets, which are live as well, and then some peanuts. So those are pretty much their favorite treats. We are introducing some more. In the wilds, one of the best things to get that they eat that correlates with their success of breeding is blue crab. And we have given them blue crab in the past, but they actually were pretty scared of it. So maybe in the future we can try again, but it was not that great of a moment for them to be scared of something that they are really supposed to rely on as a food source. So maybe in the future. And we sometimes give them cranberry. They like fruits, different types of fruits like grape, papaya, and anything like that. Even though there's some stuff in the food pile, sometimes they get lazy and they don't want to work for it. just don't see it automatically. If you look closely when Haydn looks for the food, he doesn't look straight down. He kind of tilts his head to try to see the item, and you can notice that they do have a long beak. So they have a long beak in the way, so they kind of can see forward, but it helps a little bit more if they look sideways. So how tall are they? So they're about 5 feet tall. They are actually the tallest birds in North America. So they're not the tallest cranes, but they are the tallest birds in North America. And 5 feet tall is very tall. And how long is their wingspan? Their wingspan is pretty big. It's about 7 feet. So when Haydn opened his wings earlier, that's about 7-foot wingspan. So it is a pretty big bird. And when you're in here, it can get a little bit intimidating, especially when he comes close. But when he does come close, it's mainly because he's like, do you have food? I really, really want that peanut in your hand. And so he really does get a little bit intimidating, but he's not scary, or he's not aggressive or anything like that. He's more just food motivated, and birds are also very curious in what you're doing. And we do try to do a lot of training and enrichment with them. One thing that they are going to start training them to do is shift in the night shelter, especially for veterinary procedures. Because if you've ever been to this crane habitat, it's a very, very big exhibit in the Texas wetlands area. So trying to have a veterinary examine this big exhibit is a little hard. So we do shift them into the night shelter, and then we will also shift them into the night shelter if there is a severe weather event. So if there is a huge hurricane coming through, we will shift them inside just in case anything happens. But other than that, they are pretty weather tolerant. So right now it is getting pretty cold, but you won't see them shivering or anything like that. Cranes do come from Canada, so Canada does get a lot colder than here. Leslie asks if they are a breeding pair. So these are a breeding pair. They've been together for about 10 years. Since 2011, I believe. They were part of the Whooping Crane Foundation, and they were part of the breeding program. But Angel, unfortunately, does have reproductive problems, which is unfortunate. We do see that in a lot of birds. We do see that in a lot of humans. So it's pretty relatable that she does have reproductive problems. And so she was brought here as sort of an ambassador animal, because she couldn't be released after being part of that program. So now she's an ambassador animal for the Houston Zoo. So you guys can come and see them through these Facebook Lives up close and personal. And hopefully you will want to fall in love with them and want to save them as well in the wild. And in the future, she could, last year was the first year they actually built a nest. So they haven't really done that here at the Houston Zoo. So maybe in the future they will breed a little bit more, but because of the reproductive issues, she might not be able to reproduce an egg, but she might become a foster parent. So fingers crossed she does have that nesting success of building a nest. They kind of got a little bit too full of all the snacks they ate. They eat a lot, and then sometimes they forget they ate a lot, and sometimes they forget there was treats in there, so they're like, oh, treats. All right, and that's it for our Whooping Crane Facebook Live. We want to thank you again for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed the Whooping Cranes, Angel and Haydn. And I really hope you guys come out and see these beautiful Whooping Cranes at the Houston Zoo at the Texas wetlands area. And tune in again for next Wednesday at 11 a.m. for another Facebook Live. Thank you guys for joining us, and feel free to add in any questions and we will get back to you.